It's more than just a show. It's community. It's the Stillwater Morning Scramble with Steve Daniels on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network.
What's new with the mayor?
Oh, just kind of plugging along, trying to get things done. We've got a meeting tonight, some of our study session. We try to do study sessions once a month, kind of at our third meeting of the month, to kind of talk about bigger issues, do a little research, get some reports on just sort of future topics that might be of interest. So not really an action item, but a study session. So tonight we're going to be talking about renewable energy, and I think we've got some folks in from Grand River Dam, some folks from our utility that'll be talking to us about what our options are in trying to up our renewable energy feed, how much renewable energy we're getting, because we buy, as some people may know, all of our power really comes from Grand River Dam, the Grand River Dam Authority, some of which is generated hydro at Grand River Dam,
right.
but a lot of it's also generated by coal-fired plants. And our plant here in Stillwater is natural gas-fired. So
Did you know all this before you became mayor?
Oh gosh, no.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I knew a little just from trying to pay attention before in the last couple of years before I became on the city council.
We discussed it on the air with the GRDA.
Yeah.
See? Yeah. I don't know acronyms, but when we've talked about it a lot. But it's out of my league. I mean, I'm not an engineer. I'm not a power guy, and so it has to be explained to me.
Yeah, I mean, the way that all that works is very interesting because we built that brand new power plant a few years back before I was on council. That project went through. But it's natural gas fired, but we don't actually use, it's not like that power comes out of that plant and comes to my house, right? That all that power actually gets sold back into the Southwest Power
Right.
Pool, which is sort of like the wholesale collection of power.
See, and selling power is beyond my comprehension, sort of. I don't really understand all
The
that.
market for power and everything is so complex in terms of the prices and where you sell it and how you sell it and all this sort of thing. And yeah, I got a huge crash course in it about that power plant and how that works and how it actually
Have you
makes
toured
Stillwater
it
money.
and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
That would probably help. I'm a visual
It's a fantastic
person.
place. Yeah, but seeing those gigantic motors that run the generators is interesting, but it doesn't give you a whole lot of insight into the market for power. So yeah, having somebody like Lauren Smith, our director out there over the utility, certainly helps, and talking to folks. So that's going to be a good discussion tonight because I'm sure we'll get into kind of all that about how where our power comes from, how it's generated. And what the options are around wind, solar, all that sort of thing. Because you're seeing that certainly come online more, but there's a lot of discussion about the costs and what the benefits are and all that sort of thing. So we want to have that discussion tonight.
It's probably been a decade when Mr. Pickens was buying time on networks with his own money, and it was about wind energy, and it just didn't get the traction that he wanted at the time.
Yeah, I think he said something here fairly recently over the last few months about how he was a decade too early or something on wind, and he was when he was pushing it real heavy. But it's really complex. I mean, the cost of constructing those and how they work. I mean, one of the things, actually, the reason we built a natural gas fired plant here is that there's a huge market. It does what they call chasing the wind. So that plant really runs most when the wind's not blowing and the sun's not shining, right? So when the market for electricity, there's not as much being generated if the wind's not blowing and the sun's not shining because of all that alternative energy out there, the price goes up, right? Because supply is down. So the price starts to go up when those things aren't generating as much. And so our plant can kick in really quickly and start generating and actually take advantage of those high prices when supply is down. Okay. Because wind and solar aren't generating as much.
And that's called chasing the wind.
Yeah, it's sort of this idea that it's that idea when demand is low because renewables aren't producing as much, we can turn that plant on really quickly and generate electricity that gets sold at a higher price so that it brings in more revenue to the plant and to the city that helps offset the cost of all the other electricity we buy out of the pool.
There's some smart people out there, aren't there?
It's very complex, and it's been a great deal for Stillwater, and I think as we go, that plant basically pays for itself out of the power it generates, and as that $70 million bond is paid off, that money then becomes income to the city and to the power utility, so that we can again kind of continue to offset the other power we have to buy.
When you say study session,
yes,
can someone come and address you tonight at the study session, or is that?
I think there's I'm not looking at the agenda right now, but I think there is a public comment on items not scheduled for public comment. I think there might be the ability to do that. Certainly, there's always the option of sending an email or calling us up, or letting us know what you think. They're not usually sort of public hearings, although we did one back in June on transportation where we set it up more as like a town hall. But most of the time they're more sort of reports to the council.
Okay.
But I think, certainly if there are folks who want to talk, I'm sure we can figure out some way to.
But that's not really the motivation you have.
It's not really at this point. It's not really like a town hall discussion. It's more just trying to get some information out there. I think if we want to move forward with the discussion, if we want to go, okay, now that we know that, let's talk as a community about what we think we should do, then yeah, absolutely the next step would be more of a town hall community conversation sort of thing.
So how did the state of the city go?
I thought it went fine. Yeah, that was so.
You had good reviews.
I hadn't seen, but I haven't.
Well, it wasn't like Siskel and Ebert; they're gone now. But from what I heard,
I didn't.
We're on the right
track. Go back
track.
and read the reviews, but it's So the chamber puts that on once a year, which is great. Just an opportunity to get up and talk a little bit about what's going on in the city. It's an odd speech to write, I think, because I talked about there's so much stuff you could kind of walk through, just the litany of things that we've done over the past year, the things that we've dealt with, the issues that have come up, and I could just kind of spend 25 minutes very easily walking through all the stuff that's happened. But I tried to make it a little bit more about what we're excited about, what I'm optimistic about in Stillwater. I think it's. I was thinking this, and I didn't say this as explicitly in that speech, but we changed the charter in Stillwater about 3 years ago, actually, when I was first elected to council, before I was on. But at the same time I was elected to council, we changed the city charter to extend the terms of city councilors. Right. They used to be 3 years, and most people you just serve 2 terms at a time, and then you had to sit out at least for a year. And then, so at that time, they changed it to 4-year terms, and they let you serve up to 12 years consecutively, if you are willing to stick it out that long. But the whole idea was allowing the council to get more long-term momentum built on some of these projects, which is, I think, a humongous benefit that needs to happen. Right? It's tough with policy-making bodies that if that body is turning over every 2 years or every 3 years like it had been, that it's really tough to build any sort of long-term momentum and get any kind of long-term project, right? Because talking about like our TIF, our economic redevelopment plan here that we passed last June, we haven't, it wasn't, we had a couple things come in the theater that said, hey, we want to be part of this, let's talk about it. That conversation's been ongoing for a long time now. I think even myself personally, I thought, oh, you're going to see results here pretty quick, right? We're going to this is going to jumpstart some things, and it certainly has jumpstarted a lot of conversations. But we haven't seen projects that have been built yet, in the first year of that project. But I had to step back and sort of go, a year is, in the scheme of things, in redevelopment projects, a year is nothing. I mean, that's talking, right? That's doing engineering studies and sort of figuring out what you can make work and trying to find a location and that sort of thing. So. Just part of it is just kind of stepping back and saying, hey, this is a long-term project we're working on overall in the city. We're working on things like improving our storm drainage system, right? Improving our infrastructure, our road infrastructure. None of that stuff happens overnight, right? And so helping talk about, hey, here's the progress that's being made. Here are the projects that are on the burner. They're out there, but it's definitely going to take more than 6 months to fix all the roads in Stillwater. It's going to take more than a year to get our storm water drainage system up to par. We're working on it. We're focused on it. We're committing resources to it, but we also need to understand that these things don't just get fixed overnight.
It's more than just a show. It's community. It's the Stillwater Morning Scramble with Steve Daniels on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network.